The city of Seattle was wrapped in drizzle and noise. 1,000 lights flickering on wet streets, coffee shops humming with late-night warmth, and music echoing from forgotten corners. Among the bustle stood Eli Harper, a 29-year-old street musician with a broken guitar and a quiet soul. Every night, he played under the same awning near Pike Place Market, his voice raw but full of something that made strangers stop. The sound of someone still fighting for hope. He wasn't chasing fame anymore. Once, he'd had a record deal lined up, a life waiting to happen. But tragedy had rewritten everything. 3 years ago, his younger sister Lily had died in a hit-and-run accident on her way to one of his shows. After that night, he couldn't finish a single song. Music had become both his refuge and his punishment. On a cold evening in November, Eli was halfway through a melody he'd played 100 times when a voice interrupted him. Soft, hesitant, but clear. "That song, it sounds like something unfinished," the woman said. Eli looked up. Standing a few feet away was a young woman, maybe mid-20s, with auburn hair tucked under a wool hat and a notebook clutched to her chest. Her clothes were simple, but carried the quiet elegance of someone raised in a different world. He smiled faintly. "That's because it is." She tilted her head. "What's it called?" He hesitated. "It doesn't have a name. I stopped writing it 3 years ago." Her expression softened. "Then maybe it's waiting for the right ending." He chuckled. "Maybe, but endings aren't really my thing anymore." She smiled, the kind that felt like sunlight in grey weather. "Then maybe start again instead." And just like that, she dropped a few bills in his case and disappeared into the crowd. For the next week, Eli couldn't have stopped thinking about her, the stranger with the notebook, and the words that somehow hit deeper than any lyric he'd written. Then, one night, she returned. "You're here again," he said, surprised. "I walk this way every evening," she replied. "You make the city sound less lonely." They started talking. Her name was Amelia Ward, a writer, or at least someone trying to be one. She said she liked stories about ordinary people who quietly saved each other. Eli smiled. "Then you're in the right place. This corner's full of those." Over the next few weeks, they built a strange kind of friendship. She'd bring him coffee and sit nearby, scribbling in her notebook while he played. Sometimes she'd ask questions about his music. Other times she'd just listen. He told her about Lily, about the accident, about how he'd stopped performing anywhere but here because he couldn't face stages that reminded him of the night he lost everything. Amelia didn't try to fix him. She just said, "Some songs aren't meant to be perfect, they're meant to be honest." He looked at her like she'd just handed him a truth he'd been missing. Weeks turned into months. The rain came harder, the city lit up for Christmas, and the crowds grew thicker. One night, Amelia didn't show up. Eli waited, played longer than usual, told himself it didn't matter. But the truth was, it did. For the first time in years, he'd felt like writing again, like maybe life could hum again. He didn't see her for 10 days. Then, one snowy evening, a black car pulled up to the curb beside him. The door opened, and a man in a grey suit stepped out. "Mr. Harper." Eli frowned. "Yeah?" The man handed him a card. "I work for Mr. Ward. My employer's daughter, Amelia, speaks highly of you. She's requested your presence at her family's estate tomorrow evening." Eli blinked. "Her family's estate?" "Yes, sir. 7 o'clock sharp. Dress accordingly." The car pulled away, leaving Eli staring after it, confused and more than a little intimidated. The next evening, Eli stood outside Ward Manor, a sprawling property overlooking Lake Washington. His old leather jacket suddenly felt very out of place among the marble pillars and luxury cars. He took a deep breath and knocked. The door opened to reveal Amelia, in a simple white dress, smiling as if she'd been waiting for him all week. "You came," she said softly. "You sent a car," he said with a nervous laugh. I wasn't sure if I was being kidnapped or invited." She giggled. A little of both, maybe. She led him through the hallways, past paintings and chandeliers that looked like they belonged in another century. "My father's hosting a charity gala," she explained. "He loves music but hates pretense. I thought, maybe you could play." He froze. "Amelia, I'm not exactly—" She touched his arm gently. "You're exactly what this place needs, something real." When Eli stepped onto the small stage that night, surrounded by people in glittering suits, he felt like an imposter. But then he saw Amelia, standing in the back, giving him that same quiet, fearless smile. He began to play. At first, his hands trembled. Then, somewhere in the middle of the song, something broke open inside him. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive. The crowd fell silent. When he finished, the room erupted in applause, polite at first, then genuine. Afterward, Amelia found him backstage. "That was beautiful," she said. "It felt like saying goodbye," he whispered. "To your sister?" He nodded. "And maybe to who I was before," she smiled. "Then say hello to who you're becoming." That night changed everything. Eli's performance went viral. Someone had recorded it and uploaded it with the caption, "The homeless musician who silenced the millionaires." Within a week, the clip had 1 million views. Journalists wanted interviews. Old contacts called about contracts. But what Eli wanted most was simpler. He wanted to see Amelia again. When he arrived at her home a few days later, something felt off. The butler hesitated before opening the door. "Miss Ward isn't well," he said quietly. "She's asked not to receive visitors." Eli frowned. "Is she sick?" The man hesitated. "She's been ill for some time. I'm sorry you didn't know." Eli's chest tightened. "Please, just tell her I stopped by." He left, heart pounding. For days, she didn't respond to his texts or calls. Finally, he received a short message. "I'm sorry I disappeared. I didn't want you to see me like this. Please don't come." He ignored it. He showed up anyway. When Amelia opened the door, she looked fragile, thinner, pale, her energy dimmed, but still glowing faintly in her eyes. "I told you not to come," she said softly. "I don't take orders well," he said with a small smile, "especially from people who make me care." She sighed, but her lips curved. "You're impossible." He stepped closer. "What's going on, Amelia?" She looked away. "It's my heart, a congenital condition. It's been manageable, but lately, not so much. The doctors say stress could make it worse." He swallowed hard. "And me?" "You make me feel," she whispered. "That's both the best and worst thing." He took her hand gently. "Then I'll make you feel peace. Promise." From then on, Eli visited every day. He brought music, laughter, quiet moments. He played in her room when she was too tired to move. Sometimes they'd just sit in silence, their hands intertwined, listening to the city breathing outside. He started writing again, finishing the song he'd abandoned for years. One evening, he told her, "I'm calling it The Song I Never Finished. But now it finally has an ending." She smiled weakly. "Sing it for me when it's ready." "I will," he said, "every day until you're better." But life isn't a movie, not the easy kind, at least. In late spring, Amelia's condition worsened. The hospital called one night. She'd collapsed during treatment. Eli rushed there, heart in his throat. When he entered her room, she looked peaceful, asleep beneath the pale glow of machines. He sat beside her, holding her hand. She stirred faintly. "Hey," she whispered. "Hey yourself," he said, forcing a smile. "Did you finish the song?" He nodded. "You want to hear it?" She smiled faintly. "Always." So he sang, quietly, softly, just for her. Halfway through, tears blurred his vision. The words cracked, but her fingers squeezed his weakly. When he finished, she whispered, "That's the most beautiful ending I've ever heard." Then, with a faint smile, she closed her eyes. The monitors continued their steady rhythm until they didn't. A month later, Eli played that same song on a city stage, not for fame, not for money, but for her. He told the crowd, "This song belonged to someone who taught me that broken melodies still matter. She didn't want perfection, she wanted truth." The audience was silent. Then, one by one, people stood, applauding through tears. A year passed. Eli's music career took off again, but he never left that street corner entirely. Every Friday, he'd play there, where they first met, rain or shine. He'd leave a single white rose beside his guitar. And one evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, a little girl stopped to listen. She tugged her mother's sleeve. "Mummy, that man's song sounds like a story." Eli smiled. "It is," he said softly, "about a girl who heard music where no one else did." Months later, during a charity concert organized in Amelia's name, her father approached Eli backstage. "She believed in you," Mr. Ward said quietly. "She left something for you." He handed Eli an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "You once said you couldn't finish your song, maybe because it wasn't yours to finish alone. If you're reading this, promise me one thing. Keep singing, even when it hurts, because someone, somewhere, will need to hear it the way I did." At the bottom was a line that made him smile through his tears. P.S. "Tell Lily I said hi." That night, Eli sang again, not of loss, but of love that refuses to fade. And as the crowd swayed under the lights, he looked up at the sky and whispered, "You gave my song its ending, Amelia, and maybe that's how every story of love is meant to go, unfinished, but eternal." Sometimes the song isn't finished because it is still being written in someone else's heart.